Welcome back to our podcast, where we share real stories, real solutions, and real financial relief for people waiting on their lawsuit settlements. I'm Laura Lee, and today we're bringing you two deeply personal stories. Stories of people who faced overwhelming financial struggles while waiting for justice and found relief through pre-settlement funding. These are real-life situations that thousands of plaintiffs go through every single year. You might think, well, I have a strong case. The insurance company will take care of me. Unfortunately, that's rarely how it works. Insurance companies don't rush to pay you. In fact, they do the opposite. Big corporations have teams of lawyers whose job it is to stall cases. Medical bills, rent, and daily expenses don't wait for settlements. But that's why so many people feel trapped, forced to choose between taking an unfairly low offer or falling deeper into financial crisis. But today's stories prove that you don't have to make that choice. With the help of Stonewood Funding, these two plaintiffs were able to keep their homes, pay their bills, and avoid financial disaster, so they could fight for the compensation they truly deserved. If you're struggling right now, waiting for a settlement that feels like it's never coming, this episode is for you. Jacob's fight after a devastating workplace injury. Our first story takes us to Pennsylvania, where Jacob, a 47-year-old factory worker, had his entire world turned upside down in an instant. Jacob had been working in manufacturing for over 20 years. He was strong, hardworking, and reliable, the kind of guy who showed up early and stayed late to get the job done. But one day, a cold December morning, one accident changed everything. Jacob was working his shift, loading materials onto a conveyor belt, when suddenly a faulty machine malfunctioned. The belt jerked forward violently, causing a heavy steel panel to come crushing down on his leg. The pain was unbearable. His co-workers rushed to help as he lay there, struggling to move. Within minutes, the factory floor was flooded with supervisors and paramedics. The doctors at the hospitals confirmed his worst fear: multiple fractures in his leg, nerve damage in his foot, a long, painful recovery ahead. Jacob was out of work indefinitely. He needed surgeries, months of physical therapy, and possibly more procedures down the line. At first, he wasn't worried because his employer had workers' compensation insurance, but they were supposed to cover his medical expenses and lost wages. But the delays started. The insurance company started dragging its feet. They claimed they needed more documentation. Then they said his injury wasn't as serious as he claimed. Then they tried to argue that his pre-existing knee pain had contributed to the injury. Weeks turned into months, and Jacob, he had no income. His savings ran dry. His bills piled up. He started falling behind on rent. The creditors were calling every day. That's when Jacob realized the insurance company was trying to starve him out. They were delaying his payments on purpose, hoping that he'd get so desperate that he'd accept whatever low offer they threw at him. And Jacob almost did. He was weeks away from losing his apartment when his attorney told him about pre-settlement funding. Jacob applied for Stonewood Funding, and within 48 hours, he had the money in his account. He paid his rent, keeping a roof over his head. He covered his medical co-pays so he could continue treatment. He bought groceries, easing the stress of everyday survival. With that financial support, Jacob was able to wait, and when his case finally settled, he received 6 times more than what the insurance company originally offered. Without pre-settlement funding, Jacob would have been forced to take a very bad deal. Instead, he got the justice he deserved. Stonewood Funding makes a difference. What made the difference in Jacob's story wasn't just pre-settlement funding. It was choosing the right company to provide it. At Stonewood Funding, we believe in fast approvals because we know you need help now, not months from now. No credit checks or employment history requirements. No monthly payments because you shouldn't have to worry about paying us back until the case is settled. Honest and transparent terms. That's why so many attorneys trust Stonewood Funding to provide financial relief for their clients. Vanessa's fight after a terrifying car accident. Our next story takes us to Georgia, where Vanessa, a 32-year-old teacher, found herself in a nightmare scenario after a horrific car crash. She had just finished a parent-teacher conference and was on her way home when she stopped at a red light. What happened next changed her life forever. Out of nowhere, a speeding pickup truck slammed into the back of her car at full force. The impact shattered her rear windshield, sending broken glass flying everywhere. The car was pushed into an intersection, barely missing a collision with another vehicle. Vanessa was unconscious when the paramedics arrived. When she awoke in the hospital, the doctors told her the damage was severe: a fractured spine, a concussion with memory loss, chronic nerve pain that would last a lifetime. She was lucky to be alive, but her road to recovery would be long and expensive. Vanessa applied for pre-settlement funding and received an advance on her future settlement. She paid her rent, keeping her home secure. She covered her medical bills, continuing vital treatment, and she focused on healing instead of worrying about money. With that breathing room, her attorney was able to push for a fair settlement, and when her case finally settled, Vanessa received 10 times more than the initial offer. If you're waiting for a lawsuit settlement, don't let financial pressure force you into a bad deal. Visit stonewoodfunding.com to apply today. You don't have to go through this alone. Get the support you need today.